ready to open this.
Thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's review, we take a look at the Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Metalhead. Today I'll be reviewing this figure in the following categories: accessories, articulation, design. Is it essential to your collection? Functionality and price. Once those scores are totaled, I'll give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. So let's take him out the box real quickly, as this is a slipcover, and let's see what it looks like. So when you remove that brown slipcover, you're left with this plastic, which we're going to remove.
You want to let me play with this?
So with the slipcover, you just take this off, and it reveals Metalhead. So for those of you that know, with Super 7, all these figures take so long to arrive. So this is the third wave of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is actually one of the figures that I'm looking most forward to. However, looking at him in this box, I already have some concerns, and we'll talk about it at the design part. Okay, so for accessories, let's take a look at this section first, as you get two options. So you receive all of these accessories still attached to this part, and then you get the accessories separate, with this one here being painted. I think this was a tracker in original series, don't really remember, but it appears to be a sticker on the front, and there's actually some paint. Most of this is casted in green. However, you can see some metallics here along the little ribbons and on the buttons here and here. So next thing I want to move with was this small, next thing I want to show is this small satellite. This has absolutely no paint on it. And then you receive two of these. I think these were like helicopter pieces that attached to his finger or his head. I'm not sure. I did not go back to watch the series to find out. These are very similar, the difference being that this peg is a lot thicker and longer, and this one is slimmer. Hey, you can't rock like that. You're going to knock the camera. Sliding that over, you get two grenades, and there's paint up here, which I like, so you can see the silver or grays. We receive, we'll say, 7 hands in total.
She is great.
And then you receive this hand that has an open finger. I really like how the finger, hey, stop doing that to the camera. To how the finger over here is open, and then you have this wire coming out of it. Not a bendy wire, for those of you who are wondering. And then you get another head, which is very close to the original. We'll talk about more of that in the design portion. So for accessories, you get a good amount of stuff.
You're done?
I'm going to give Metalhead a 9 out of 10. So for articulation, I'm not expecting a lot here. The head does move up about that much, does move down. You actually get pivot, which I wasn't expecting, and it does rotate. So for the arm, it only lifts up about that much. It does rotate a full 360 if you choose to. You do have an upper bicep cut there. The right underneath the elbow also turns, and the wrists rotate. They are on a hinge, so they go side to side, excuse me. As you can clearly see, you have no movement within the torso. This is all a singular piece. So with the legs, they're able to kick forward about that much, backwards about that much. It does rotate. Okay, next point of rotation would be under the knee, and it barely moves because of this piece here. Then the foot is able to go back that much, maybe a bit more forward, but this is super tight. As well as the foot seems loose, I'm not going to take the chance on breaking that. So let me just try with this one for, yeah, I'm not going to take that chance. It does rotate in that much, out that much. Knees are single jointed, barely bending in at all. And for the legs, you do get the splits. He split all the way to the side. Almost forgot, there is no butterfly joint. I thought it was something here, but there isn't. Almost forgot, you can straighten the elbow about that much, and it will bend about that much. So for articulation, this figure is very limited. I would advise, before messing around with the feet, that you certainly warm up this hair. I'm not going to take the chance of breaking that, as it took a considerable time already to get these figures. So for overall articulation, I'm going to give Metalhead a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
All right, so for design, let's take a look at a few things, and I want to start with some of the positives. Yes, my original figure seen better days. I gave it to my son maybe too early, and he didn't do the greatest job with it. So let's just talk about where we see some improvements. If you look on the lower end here, you see the lightning bolt. There's absolutely no paint, to where Super 7 made sure to paint that. If you turn the figure to the side, you'll also see areas to where, like the hands, for example, I don't know, maybe they were painted, but that faded over time. I can't say for sure, as I see what could be black. However, here, Super 7 did make sure to paint those areas. Turning this around, you can see here to where this was all casted gray. Super 7 decided to paint that. And just looking at the back of the arm, for example, you can see all of these bolts are painted in a silver, to where this is just casted in its original color.
I thought his toys was...
All right, so let's talk about a few misses. There aren't many, but in my opinion, the misses are monumental. So the first would be size. The toy got it wrong. The original toy got it wrong, and Super 7 got it wrong as well. Metalhead is supposed to be a much larger figure than the Turtles. So far, NECA is the only one to get that right. Now, to where I won't be, not sure if I'll be deducting one or won't be deducting any points at all, is because Super 7 decided to take their rendition from the toy. So it makes sense that the figure here is a little bit smaller. Now, the part that I can't get over is the paint. This was vac metal. And this is what I was really looking forward to in this figure. And this is why this was one of my more anticipated figures. And as you can see, this is clearly not vac metal. It doesn't even look that metallic. It looks more of a satin finish. I wanted something a lot more shinier, such as this. And the fact that this is a singular piece, there is no reason to why this could not be vac metal. So I am deducting some points for this. And it's really a letdown. I think if you did not have the original toy, then it's not that big of a problem. But if you're buying this line specifically based on the original toys, I can see to where this is an issue. And while I don't want to get too much into a lot of other things, this has me gravely concerned about Silverhawks. Also, failed to mention that you can see another painted lightning bolt here. So I want to make sure that I show the alternate head. And if you're looking and wondering what the differences are, there really isn't many, and it's not that easy to catch. The eyes on this one is darker. This one is more red. I think to match where he got angry in the animated series. If you turn them around and you look at the brain, you can see that this one is darker. This one is more red. Or it could be to match the toy, as the eyes on this one is red. And if you look back, that's red as well. This was a miss for me with Super 7. Really feel that they could have done maybe a light up feature, or to do a translucent lens with maybe some red paint behind. So for design, I'm going to give Metalhead a 6 out of 10. So is this Metalhead essential to your collection? This is going to be a case of highs and lows. The highs, there aren't a lot of versions of Metalhead to choose from, specifically if you're trying to capture one that's of the original 1987 series. So you have that, this, and perhaps Playmate has released a few versions, maybe. But if you're looking for a modern interpretation of that, this is the only figure that we have. So I think in that aspect of it, he will score sort of high. The lows, Metalhead wasn't a top tier character in the series. So he wasn't important to the overall cartoon itself. Another aspect to where I'm going to, or rather another aspect to where this figure won't score high, is I don't think that this is better than the original version, and I'll talk about that in some greater detail at the end of this video. So as far as being essential to your collection, I'm going to give this version of Metalhead a 5 out of 10. So for functionality, this figure is not the easiest to get to stand, and that's because some of the joints feel too gummy. It feels exceptionally soft right around the foot area here. One reason I'm reluctant to play around with this joint. And the legs, maybe loose isn't the proper term, but they're not as tight as I would like them to be. And this has been a standard with the turtle figures. This was the case with my Leo, the case with my Raph, and now I'm having a similar issue with Metalhead. And the plastic used here is just too soft, in my opinion, for a character that's, or a figure that's really not articulated well. I don't see the point of all the softness because you don't get a lot of range of movement within these joints. So let's take some time to play around with the hands. We're going to remove this one. That came off a bit too easy, in my opinion. And you peg that one in easy enough, and you have this hand. This accessory piece is very light, so you don't have to worry about it weighing down the hand. Removing that for a moment, you also get one of two pieces here. The thinner joint plugs right in. I believe in a series, could be wrong. I don't know if it was used to mix a cake or to fly, but here you have it. And what I like is that the piece is actually functional. It turns. So we get a few hands here. None of them hold the grenade properly. So if you're trying to get him to do so, it's not going to work that well. It'll simply be more along the lines of him holding it in hand rather than throwing it. Let's go ahead and change this head scope. So with the new head scope on, I want to go ahead and place on the backpack. This is definitely my favorite accessory. As you can see here, there's a tab. There's an open space in the back of that turtle shell. You're just going to place that in. Then for these two straps, as you see, there are pegs. There are holes on his chest, which I like. Even though there are holes in the figure, I like the idea of them snapping in securely. And there you go. Once this is in place, you shouldn't have a problem with it at all. You do have some accessories which attach to it. This small rotating satellite dish. And you also have, oh, this is functional as well. There you go. So for functionality, let's talk about the accessories. They work very well with this figure. I am super happy with this backpack, the way that it plugs in the back, and that the straps plug in the chest. Usually with plastic pieces such as this, I'm always worried about them within time. So take that in mind, or keep that in mind. The hands snap on rather easy. The head snaps on easy as well. Now, the one issue is that the grenades do not fit in the hands properly. So just be cautious of that if you're trying to do some photography. I've mentioned this earlier. There's an issue here with the joints. It's way too soft. This piece is it just feels too brittle. So maybe I'll heat that up and see what happens. Also, the plastic used feels a bit cheap. It is too soft in areas, and being that this figure, as you can see, is extremely limited with articulation, the joint should not be this soft. The other is the standing. It, I guess, passes the stand test because you're able to get it to stand, but it does not stand easy. And the fault is on the joints at the bottom of the legs. And of course, the torso. This is a situation to where the company chose to go with design over functionality. So in one aspect, I'm cool with that, the design portion of it. But the functionality, you really can't get the figure to lean over well. You can't get him to crunch. There's absolutely no rotation within the waist, excuse me. No diaphragm movement at all. And I know for some, that's going to be a huge problem. So for functionality, I'm giving Metalhead a 6 out of 10. So for pricing, I think this Metalhead was at the original $45 price point. I don't think the Super 7 increase happened at this point. So I'm going to say the Metalhead comes in at $45. That's before taxes. That's before shipping. Add in those two, I'm going to say you're looking at a price point of roughly $50. So is this figure worth the price of admission? So for accessories, we get a decent spread, 7 hands in total. We do receive 2 head sculpts, though they are vaguely similar. With Super 7 would have done something to give us something that looked much different. We have some cool accessories which work well with the figure. So in the functionality aspect, the accessories are easy to pair with this figure. So for pricing, I don't feel like I was cheated with this figure and comparing him to some other companies, the exception of, I was going to say the exception of NECA, but no, it's not an exception of NECA. I'm going to give this figure an 8 out of 10 for pricing. That should give Metalhead an overall Cliff score of 38 out of 60. So now, is this figure a pass or a purchase? Here is where I stand with that. I feel that NECA delivered a product that is superior to this one in scope, design, and pricing. I also feel that the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy is better than this one. Even though this one has some aspects of paint that's better, this here and the lack of vac metal, this is a huge disappointment for me. So if you are a collector who's simply looking for a good version of Metalhead, my suggestion would be go with the NECA version, or try to find one of those Playmates reissues of the original 1987 version. This would not be the version that I recommend. Having this in my collection now, it is not a piece that I feel that has to be here. So as far as this being a pass or a purchase, I'm going to say that this version of Metalhead is a pass. All right, so here is Metalhead. Let's just throw his original version next to him.
Can I do this?
Neither stand well, so I need that wall. Let's go ahead and throw another turtle figure in. This absolutely doesn't stand well. Let's get rid of them. Let's throw in from the Nickelodeon line. Let's add in a Masters of the Universe Origins. And I think when you see Merman next to Metalhead, you get a real idea that the figure is not that big. Compared to a lot of the smaller versions, King, you're knocking the camera over. Compared to a lot of the smaller figures, he appears to be towering over them, but these are little figures. This is about a 5-inch, 5.5, so really not that big. Let's go ahead and throw in King Sphinx from the Power Rangers. And you see that he is very short compared to King Sphinx. Here he is next to a Marvel Legends, and I think this is a good size comparison that will probably piss some people off. And for our last comparison, let's move King Sphinx, and let's throw in the Super 7 Raph. And I didn't know this, Raph is actually bigger than Metalhead. So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop, and I hope to see you during the next review.